Yeah, yeah. It's Lil Kenny Russell, Canoe Connoisseur Moon. Back on the battlefield. I'm here. When I'm here, get near. Because it's going to be a shift in the atmosphere. I come with groundbreaking historical information that you cannot refute or repudiate, and you can't dispute it. So let me get my screen up. I hope y'all having a good afternoon, good evening, good morning, wherever you may be at, whoever going to tune in. I'm grateful for you. Whoever's not, still grateful. So let me make sure we live. Whoever's not, still grateful. Okay, we live. So today I'm going to bring you God and All His Limitations, Volume 1. And I'm going to put a disclaimer out right now. This is not for no hatred towards religion or God. This is for the people who's only been told one side of the story. This is sort of a Sunday school teaching in reverse. I'm going to teach you all the stuff that the pastors, the imams, the rabbis, and all these people steer away from because it's no way to explain this nonsense. So that was my disclaimer. It's Lil Kenny Russell, Canoe Connoisseur Moon. If it didn't happen then, it can't happen again. I'm here for your superior awareness. Always know that. Let's rock and roll. I'm a screen share. I want to give an honorary shout out to all the ancestors before me. I always mention a few names that really steered me in the direction that I'm in. So as customary practice, I want to do so. Dr. Yosef Ben Yakinen, Dr. Ben, Dr. John Henry Clark, that's Dr. Clark, John G. Jackson, okay, Sheikh Anta Diop, Ivan Van Sertima, El Haj Malik Shabazz, Malcolm X, Khalid Muhammad, okay, all them radical names I just named, doing groundbreaking work and things that people were scared to do, tucking their tails and things of that nature. And another radical name was Huey P. Newton. He fell victim to a lot of the struggle that he was trying to fight for, but he was radical as well. Then General Seti, shout out to the general. The general is a master teacher of his own. So a lot of the things that I'm really into is more of a revolutionary stance like the general was taking. So I stand with the general. I'm backing the general no matter what. I have my own platform, Canoe Connoisseur Moon Life. I got War, Wrath of African Revolutionaries, and I'm coming to gunsling like all the rest of the people that's out here doing it. Shout out to Seti, Seti's protege, his wingman. I'm not demeaning him when I say that. Pharaoh, young Pharaoh, you know, them two go together. That's Batman and Robin. And I want to take a special honorary shout out to the elder, the master teacher, the teacher of my education, Walter Williams. So with that being said and done, let's go into God and all of his limitations. And I'm not doing this for hatred at the Bible or this word God that they put you up under. I'm here to show you that you've been given a distorted view of what's been going on. So your distortion makes you think people like me that's seeing in HD has a distorted picture. Now you in 480, and they didn't have 480 back then. So you have a really distorted picture. The pixels not even together. And I'm coming from 1080 and things like that, 3D, 4K, whatever the highest resolution you can get. So what you think my vision is distorted, I'm going to show you and prove in fact that yours is. I'm trying to remove you out of the bottle, as Seti say. I'm trying to take the genie out of the bottle. The bottle is the Bible. You're stuck in the Bible, and I'm going to try to remove you from these cobwebs, okay? You need to be free. You're like the little fly or something that got caught in the spider's web, and you're finna meet your doom. So I must show you that a lot of these imperfections in God's words is just that. This is not God's words. Because if it's a so-called God, I don't even like to use the term, but I'm using it so you can understand where I'm coming from. It cannot be no imperfections with a God, okay? First and foremost, you need to understand that a God can't die, see? So you already took a distorted picture and you want to run and live with it. But when somebody say, hey, how did God die? But he got up. He didn't die. He died for 3 days, but God already got you speaking in double because religion develops insanity. So with that being said, I'm going to start screen sharing and show you a couple of things. This is just part one. Like I said, I'm going to do about a 7-part series. So let me start screen sharing. And it's going to be very educational to people that never seen this type of stuff. And I know a lot of people have not seen this type of stuff. So that's my job, to show it to you. Okay, hold on. I just want to have the single screen when I'm sharing. Where's that at? Right here. Okay. Now, let's rock. So like I said, this is part one. And make sure I'm sharing full screen because I want you guys to be able to read this. I'm checking my second monitor. It's just my phone, but I'm making sure we live and direct. The computer actually just dropped out on me a second ago, so this is my second time, my second attempt at this particular broadcast. Don't want me to put it out, you see, but the ancestors do. They want me to put it out because they fell victim to these lies. When they handed them the book, took their land and handed them the book, the first thing they started them on was these lies so they can understand this stuff. Because this stuff was never in ancient times, antiquity. Antiquity means ancient times for those that don't know, okay? Now, God and all of his limitations, part one, okay? I'm going to read this. Dr. Walter Williams, this is a quote. Facts, which are stronger than arguments, more profound than reasoning, more dependable than opinion. Silences disputes, supersedes predictions, and facts always ends the arguments, if you know the facts, okay? So, and I got it in head in the clouds blue, because that's where your head must stay when you dwelling into these fictitious words of the Bible, okay? So right off, I'm going to take you into Matthew 23, Matthew 2, 13 to 15, okay? This is the angel has a message for Joseph. See, this angel, Joseph, was called the dreamer. And I'm speaking about the so-called earthly father of this God, Jesus, which later becomes God. So it's okay to use the word God. You understand it as that. Go to Egypt, Joseph. Take Jesus and escape to Egypt. Okay, that's Matthew 2, 13 to 15. So what I'm explaining to you already is this is a horrible thing to say God can't do something, but that's just what it is. The God of the Bible, that God that gave Mary the seed to birth this Jesus, that God that they say God sent his son down, didn't have the power to stop Herod. You hear me? He didn't have the power to stop Herod from killing this king or this Messiah, this baby. He says, take Joseph, take the baby to Egypt. Why would you bring him to Egypt, to my ancestors, to our ancestors, if they was dog worshipers and things of that nature? Why would you want them to come down to these heathen pagan worshipers and things of that nature? Why would you want the Son of God, the only Son of God, to come to Egypt? And Egypt is nothing but like a cesspool of hate and sin, okay? Herod searches for Jesus to kill him because he thinks Jesus could be the next king instead of him, okay? After the Magi leaves Joseph, has a dream in which the angel tells him, okay, take Mary and Jesus to Egypt, like I just explained to you. Idol worshipers, pagan, heathen people that's looked upon in the Bible. Okay? People that had, because this is after Exodus and all that in Egypt. They already was held captive and slaves, the Jewish people. Why would you take them to slave owners? People that's already enslaved your people. Because this is the New Testament. So why would you go back into something that you was held captive in? See, the Jewish people in Noah and Moses' time was held captive to build all the pyramids, they say. Nothing but a goddamn lie. But I must use this as a teaching instrument for you. They say that in the Old Testament. This is the New Testament now, Matthew. Take him back up into Egypt where you was held slaves at, the Hebrews, because Jesus is a Hebrew and a Jew. Go back up into Egypt. This stuff develops insanity. You're given a distorted picture and you're willing to die with it, okay? This God don't have any power to stop Herod. He must take them into Egypt. They leave immediately and do not come back until the angel tells them to. And when is that? When Herod dies, okay? In those times, Egypt extended well beyond the north side of the Suez Canal. So this is telling you that Egypt had a very larger expansion of the world. See, ancient Egypt extended out far. People don't understand that. It's no Middle East. Saudi Arabia and Iraq, Iran, all that type of stuff. Northeast Africa, that's all that is. It's never been nothing called Middle East until after 1914 and 1918. That's World War I. Okay? All that stuff got named that after World War I. And you can look that up. Okay? That's called the mandates. You can look up the mandates and you will see exactly what I'm speaking about. After World War I, 1914 to 1918, you have the mandates and then they bring on the Middle East. Okay? Background reading. The escape to Egypt. When they had gone, an angel of the Lord appeared to Joseph in a dream. This is an actual Bible verse now. Get up, he said. Take the child and his mother and escape to Egypt. Stay there until I tell you. This is God now. For Herod is going to search for the child to kill him. So he couldn't stop Herod. That's what I'm trying to tell you. It's an awful thing to say God can do a thing, but that's what this is saying. So he got up and took the child and his mother during the night and left to Egypt, where they stayed until the death of Herod. See? Stay there how long? Until Herod dies. You hear me? So this person didn't have the power to do none of that. These gods they speaking about is limited. And so was fulfilled what the Lord had said. See, not what he had done, but what he said through the prophet. Out of Egypt I called my son. Matthew 2:13 and 15. So then you have some people that want to argue, see, Jesus is from Egypt because he said, out of Egypt I called my son. But that's only because he sent them there because he couldn't kill Herod. Let me continue. Now this is the Suez Canal. I'm going to show you a map of what I just read. It said the Suez Canal, it said people didn't know that Egypt had a more broad or larger rule of land than they just do in these type of times. So this Egypt here, the Suez Canal is here. North, that's all up into Europe. That's Asia. That's all up into Saudi Arabia, Jordan, any of this type of stuff. Because see, here's Egypt, okay? Suez Canal is here. So you can go north. And I just told you, Northeast Africa is the Middle East now. They took that name. And you see here, okay? Suez Canal. This is north and that's east. All of this was Egypt's territory. All up into Europe. All up into Syria, Iraq, Iran, Jordan, all this type of stuff. This was all Egypt's territory. So you need to really understand the power that Egypt and the Pharaoh held at those times. Okay. Now, this is Joseph the carpenter, the earthly father of this Jesus the Christ, who later becomes the so-called God. Okay. This painting was created around the year 642 ABCE, after the BCE dates ran off. And that's from Walter Williams. That's what he used instead of AD. And because it's never been no Lord. Okay. AD means after the death or Anno Domini. That means and after the death or the time of our Lord. See, never been no Lord. So I like to adapt ABCE from Walter Williams. That's after BCE dates ran out, which is basically the common era. So 1642 of the common era is when this was created. This is John here. I mean, Joseph, I'm sorry. And this is Jesus. See how he's holding the candle and his face is illuminated like the sun, S-U-N, not S-O-N, Son of God, which they changed it to. And the candle in his hand is illuminated through that. letting you have some semblance that this is the light of God. This is Joseph. When the angel came to him in a dream, looked like he drunk. See, sleeping here like he had a hangover when he got up. Maybe took too much syrup, cough syrup, anything. Who knows? Pills, opioids, anything. This him building stuff. He was a great carpenter. But I ask you, if these people have some understanding of building and hammers and all this type of stuff, why don't you have any great monuments left? They tell you about an earthquake, destruction of the land, how people came and ravished it. You know about the story when they went into captive the second time and somebody came and destroyed their buildings and all that. They tell you these different stories so you can understand it from that standpoint. But they never had nothing to be destroyed. That's just to distort you from understanding and trying to walk through the discipline of history as I did to get the truth to all this nonsense. These people are not historical. They are not in the discipline of history. They have no tombs. There's no people named Jews. There's no people named Hebrews. There's no man named Jesus anywhere on the planet that ever walked the earth in human form. You follow? So I want you to understand that. Okay? Now, I am with you always, even to the end of the world. This is Matthew 28:20. Okay? Here it is again in a different version. I am with you always, even until the end of the age. I think this is King James. Okay? Because age means the end of a time period, or enos, something like that in Greek. I don't have my Strongs right here, but I should have told you what that age meant. But it just meant like the end of that time period. So this drives that I'll be with you until the end of the world. And then they say God never changed. So in one point in Matthew, okay, he will always be with you. Okay, now this is religion develops insanity. Now, this is God can't do another thing. First, he would always be with you because they teach you, as they taught me, omnipresent, omnipotent, omnipower. He's always there. You can't leave the presence of God and all that type of stuff. So it has some semblance and resignation that God always with me. You can't leave God's presence. Where can you go? If this is the type of God that you understand, the universal creator, which is not God, the universal God, or this God that you're speaking about, you can never leave the presence of God. That's why I don't understand when they say, hey, I left God and I backslid, but now I'm back. How can you leave the presence of a unseen power? How can you do that? Okay, so in one point it says here, I am with you always, even until the end of the age. I am with you always, even until the end of the world, and God don't change. Okay, he's always with you. Now here go John 7:34 in the New International Version. You will look for me, but you will not find me. And where I am, you cannot come. So all them people, let me let you understand that right now. All you people that thinking, as soon as I die, I'm going to go with my God and Lord, you need to go back and read John 7:34 in the New International Version. And I have it in King James at the bottom. Okay, so you can see they didn't lose nothing on translation. You will look for me, but you will not find me. And where I am, you cannot come. Like he say, my Father's house has many mansions. Your ass ain't gonna be in one. If I understand and interpret the Bible the way I'm interpreting it. I'm on the outside looking in now, so I can read it plainly. Now you have Deacon Dunkin' Donut that's going to try to explain this to you and interpret it from a religious standpoint with biasness on it. Okay, I don't have no religious standpoint, so I don't have to speak from a biased type of stance. You have Reverend Pork Chop. You got Pastor Pig Feet. Okay, Chicken Wing, Reverend Daily CT Cheese Cracker. All these people that's going to interpret these for you in a religious manner. Okay, John 7:34 in the King James. Ye shall seek me and shall not find me. You're not going to be able to find God. This is Jesus and God. Jesus is God. This is God talking. And where I am, thither you cannot come. See, this is Old English from the King James. Thither. You can't come. See, you can't get into heaven. So all that, I paid my tithes. I sowed a big seed. I've been doing faithful things. I've been evangelizing, giving out the church pamphlets and programs, just serving the Lord like a damn fool. Because it says here, ye shall seek me and shall not find me. And where I am, thither ye cannot come. You can't come where I'm at. You're not getting up into heaven. So you need to face reality. The book is trying to tell you something, but your distorted version of these superhuman powers and the way that the Dunkin' Donut has explained it to you, and Pastor Pigfeet has told you, you believe that you're going to heaven. As soon as you die, you're going to heaven. I'm here to tell you that you've been lied to, okay? So you don't have nothing not to look forward to because you got the ancestors up there. You know, might be immediate ancestors, might be ancestors that died through slavery, or ancestors that we didn't find out about in our common what am I trying to say? Our teaching when we were in our the teaching methods that they taught us, the history. See, you didn't find out about them in your educational schools and things of that nature because they taught you away from these ancestors. Only ancestors you're supposed to have died in the bottom of slave ships. So that's a lie. Okay, now let me read you Genesis. This is Genesis 11:11 in the King James Version. Okay, and this is referring to the Tower of Babel and things of that nature. And the whole earth was of one language and of one speech, because you have to remember now the Tower of Babel comes after the flood. Okay, the flood happened, then that means everybody on the planet was dead. So now they repopulated up to about so many people. Okay, and they said, let's build something, and they wanted to build this tower that go all the way to the heavens. So they started building it, and God had the nerve to say, hey, let's go down there and see what they're doing. You see what I'm saying? He had to come. Why couldn't he see from where it was at? He had to come down, showing you his, again, limitations, has no power. Come down there, destroy these people, heavenly type of altar that they was putting together for this clown. They was all speaking one language because the world was just dead, so they repopulated speaking one language. And then he comes and destroy and scatter them all abroad, all across the planet. That's why it's called Babel, because everybody speaks another language. If I go to Korea, I'm not going to be able to speak their natural tongue. If I go to Saudi Arabia, I'm not going to know Arabic. If I go down to Italy, I'm not going to speak Italian and things of that nature. You see? So this God did this. Okay? And the whole earth was of one language and of one speech. And it came to pass as the journey from the east that they found a plain in the land of Shinar, and they dwelt there. So they went to Shinar. They found a plain, just as a regular, non-populated type of landmass, and they stayed there. And they said one to another, go, let us make brick and burn them thoroughly. And they had brick for stone, okay, and slime they for mortar. They had slime for mortar, like concrete. And they said, go to, let us build us a city and a tower whose top may reach into heaven, and let us make us name, lest we be scattered abroad upon the face of the whole earth. And the Lord came down, okay, to see the city and the tower which the children of men builded, okay. And the Lord said, behold, the people is one, and they have all one language. And this they began to do. And now nothing will be restrained from them, which they have imagined to do. Go, let us go down there, confound their language, that they may not understand one another's speech. So why would God do this? They all on one accord. They building a nice building up to the God, to him. And they speak in one language so they can understand each other. Why would this God come down there and stop them from doing what they're doing? Scatter them abroad and mess their language up. Why would God do this? Sound like a story about the devil. So now this is the same story in the New Living Translation, because this is a horrible read. The King James Version is a horrible read. I don't know why people like to dabble and dwell in this nonsense. None of this stuff never happened historically. The Bible is historically worthless, as I say time and time again. Let me get a drink of water before excuse me. Now, it's the same one. Genesis 11:11, New Living Translation, Tower of Babel. At one time, all the people of the world spoke the same language and used the same words. As the people migrated to the east, they found a plain in the land of Babylonia. Okay, it's another town that never existed. Babylonia and Shinar is the same. So it say Shinar up here in King James, but right here it say Babylonian. Then you understand the fictitious type of landmass that it is, never existed, and settled there. So they settled in Babylonia. Okay, and King James is Shinar, but they want you to understand this modern understanding. They began saying to each other, "Let's make bricks and harden them with fire." In the region, bricks were used instead of stone, and tar was used for mortar. Up there it says slime, but they had tar. The invention of tar don't go back this far, but they had tar. Then they said, come, let's build a great city for ourselves with a tower that reaches into the sky. This will make us famous and keep us from being scattered all over the world. But, see, always a but, the Lord came down to look at the city and the tower that people were building. Then he says this is God. Look, he said, the people are united. They all speak the same language. After this, nothing they set out to do will be impossible for them. So what's so bad about that? This God said, hey, after they do this, nothing that they set out to do is going to be impossible. He wanted things to stay impossible. He didn't want human beings to understand that they can do stuff without this fictitious Lord. So he had to come down from heaven, okay? You can't see it from where you at and blink your eyes and just make a force field or earthquake happen and destroy and stop these people from doing this. See? God cannot stop nothing. He cannot do nothing. These are the limitations of God. He's very limited. God, okay? Come, let's go down and confuse them. Who is he talking to? Other gods, you see? Talking about this is a monotheistic religion. One God. No. Come, let's go down and confuse the people. This God talking to somebody else with different languages. Then they won't be able to understand each other. This sounds like a goddamn story about the devil. This is what God did to the people that was building the Tower of Babel, because he didn't want them to understand that they had power to do all things without him, and he didn't want them to understand and speak the same language to each other. This is sad, okay? This is pictorial versions of the Tower of Babel. We know they didn't have this. This is more what it would look like, because this would have been a mud brick. This say fake one, this say real one, so you can act like you have some semblance of it being real. None of it is real. This is a ziggurat from the Middle East, which no such thing. That's a name that they created. It's no Middle East. That's a political name. That's Northeast Africa. This is supposed to be a ziggurat that they built years ago. So it's no date, but if you want to look for a date, they have to give you one. The Tower of Babel, this all happened from 604 to 562 BCE. And it's plain as day, before the Common Era, not BC, before Christ. Okay? Now, this is another thing that God can't do. And I even heard somebody try to do this away by saying, no, God was just with this person right here. He was with Judah, but he wasn't there. But okay, but you going on, and if you read this, From layman's terms, you don't need no training wheels on it to read it. If you read it in layman's terms, it'll tell you what this is about. So this is the King James, Judges 1:19 version. And the Lord was with Judah, and he drove out the inhabitants of the mountain, but could not drive out the inhabitants of the valley because they had chariots of iron. Okay? Now, could not, that means can't. That means limited. We cannot push these people out because they have chariots of iron. See? Oh, he talking about Judah. But it says there, God is with him. So if God is riding with me, I should be able to drive through brick walls, anything. If you want to play this imagination story, God always with you. You got people that say if they've been in a car that got shot 40, 50 times, see, God was with me. That's why I didn't get hit. So this is the same type of connotation and understanding. If God is with Judah, why he couldn't drive out the inhabitants of the valley? Because their chariots was of iron. This talks about a sense of weakness that this God has. This God can't touch that iron. You hear me? He can't touch this iron. Iron is too much for God, Lord Christ, and Jesus the Christ. Because they all the same. Israel fails to conquer the land. The Lord, this is New Living Translation, I'm sorry. Israel fails to conquer the land. The Lord was with the people of Judah, and they took possession of all the hill country, but they failed to drive out the people living in the plains who had iron chariots. Okay? The Lord was with the people of Judah. Now, when they took possessions of the hill country, they was just some regular old people, they didn't have no iron. But now when they got to these people, they couldn't drive out the people that's living in the plains who had iron chariots. Okay? So this is a bunch of nonsense, bull crap, and all the rest of that stuff to keep your mind, okay, faceted in on nonsense. None of this stuff is just it can't happen again. Okay? This little Kenny Russell Kanum Consul Moon. That's really what I wanted to show and tell you today. That God has limitations. And that's a big thing to say this God has limitations. Because not no God that I'm going to serve and the God that I'm speaking about has no limitations. So why would this God has limitations? It's God of the Bible. Okay? And God of the Bible is a direct, description, life, actions, situational situations, and things of that nature, and a nice brief story of what this God and Jesus can and cannot do. This is the Bible. I'm reading the Bible. I ain't playing with the Lord. I just read you Bible, scriptures, didn't put my words into it, nothing. Read it to you in layman's terms. And you've seen several occasions and several things that God cannot do. And that's saying a whole lot to say God couldn't do a thing. When you believe that God is just all omnipresent, omnipower, omnipotent type of thing. You understand that, but the Bible don't tell you that, okay? And the Bible is the only place that you can find and get stories about God, a so-called God and Jesus and the Lord and Christ and all that, see? Jesus the Christ later becomes God. So you have a distorted picture of it, and you think that this stuff is human, but they're doing inhuman things and all power and all knowledge, and all, but it's not. I'm here to tell you that God has limitations. This was God and all his limitations, part 1. You can look up all the stuff that I went through with you, screenshot it, play it over, whatever the case may be, and you will see that the book of the Bible, if a lot of people say it's God's word, that book of the Bible should not be lying, or it should not be insignificant of what this so-called God can do. So that's God Has Limitations, Volume 1. I thank you for being there. I thank you for watching with me. It's Lil Kenny Russell, Kanum Consul Moon. If it didn't happen then, it can't happen again. I'm here for your superior awareness. Wrath of an African Revolutionary, wartime. Stick with me. And I got more things to come. Yay, yay. We out of here.